Horizon Channel, and this is Why Wasn't Iran Colonized? Short animated documentary by the channel History Matters. How did Iran, or Persia as it was known back then, survive the age of colonialism? Most nations in Africa and Asia were subject to, I think Ethiopia, right, wasn't colonized, Japan, Korea, China, Afghanistan, right, yeah. And Asia was subject to foreign power during the 19th, 20th century, and yet Iran managed to circumvent this. Okay. So, as far as I remember, first of all, Iran, Persia basically at the time, it was part of Persian Empire. I think Russia kind of, took over northern part of it somewhat, and British obviously being because of the British Raj in India, right? Very close to Pakistan. It also has some control in the east. I remember that from some video. I don't remember exactly which channel was that, but I remember that. And obviously it wasn't completely colonized entire Iran, but they had debt to European countries. Which countries I don't remember, but yeah, they're dead there. So I don't know. I think they weren't colonized, but they were controlled by European colonies somewhat because of the debt. So I guess it was needed to be colonized completely. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see if there's more to that. But then yeah, there. But yeah, History Matters is great channel because they explain things in 3-4 minutes, right? It's like you just start like I want to learn some short history topic. I don't know much time, but I want to learn it. Yeah, there you go. It's just 3-4 minutes. So let's watch it.
In the age of imperialism, there were few places in Asia which got through it without coming under direct rule by a foreign power. Now, in the Middle East, there was one glaring exception, Iran, who was never conquered even briefly. But the question is, why? Why was Iran never colonized? So, as of the 19th century, the borders of Iran or Persia...
I think this, the northern part of it bit was, Russia had some control in it, so is the, I guess, eastern one, right? Because of the, British Raj here. But yeah.
As it was known then, looked like this. It was ruled by the Qajar dynasty, whose primary concern wasn't European powers but the Ottoman Empire to its west. However, as the Ottomans declined, two more powers stepped into the void to potentially threaten Persia. The first was the Russian Empire, whose expansion eastward and southward brought it into a series of conflicts with the Persians. By the mid-19th century, the Russians had taken this territory and was now a major trade partner of Persia. And it was shortly after this that Persia came into contact with Britain, who clashed with them, and the Qajar dynasty lost control of these economically important lands. Now, the rulers of Persia at this point weren't silly, and they knew that Persia was declining and that the two powers weren't going to stop until they had control of Persia in its entirety. Persia's rulers knew that they couldn't put up much resistance to either empire in the event of an invasion, and so they did the only thing that they could: play both Britain and Russia off against each other. And this did work for a time, but over the course of the late 19th century, Britain's economic control continued to grow, and thereafter something important happened. Persia struck oil. A lot of oil. Which other nation?
Yeah, oil. As soon as he said the oil, I think, one guy in US is like, huh? Did I hear oil? All right. I'm surprised how, I guess Qajar or dynasty or whatever, the Persians basically pitted Russia and Britain against each other. A tactic that most famously only British uses. I'm surprised they're like, using our own technique against us, eh? I'm surprised it worked even for a short bit.
Wanted. Britain's economic influence led to the Persian government signing over all oil rights in the early 20th century to the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, nowadays called BP. 1907 also saw the closest thing to the colonized...
What? Anglo-Persian Oil Company, that was British Petroleum known as? BP, so famous for drilling, right?
Company, nowadays called BP. 1907 also saw the closest thing to the colonization of Persia, the Anglo-Russian Convention, in which Britain and Russia carved the country up into spheres of economic influence with a little remaining free. Thus, Persia's position as a state which sat partially in both nations' spheres of influence kept it from formally being an imperial domain of either. However, when World War I rolled up, it did cause issues. When the Ottoman Empire declared war on the Entente, Persia, being somewhat aligned with them, became a target. The British and Russians maintained their zones of influence there, and the Ottomans invaded and occupied some of the eastern parts of the state. When the Russian Empire collapsed in the wake of the Bolshevik Revolution, its forces left Persia, and the Ottomans would soon after go on to lose the war and break apart. This left only Britain, who thanked Persia for its sacrifice and hard work and made sure that as a result it would be left independent forevermore. Just kidding. Instead, what happened was that Britain tried to make it into an unofficial protectorate.
I'm like, okay. As soon as he definitely got me there. I was just surprised. I was just looking for, when it's gonna turn pink there. which says, oh, look at that, they congratulated them and then just, left them alone, like, that is surprising. Of course that didn't fucking happen. Man, British probably thought like, holy shit, look at that, Ottomans are gone, Russians are basically, killing themselves with the revolution, and yeah, there you go, we are the only one left with all this oil. Yeah, okay, so I was somewhat wrong there apparently. Did I mix it up or what with the death thing? I just remember that, Iran had, Persia basically had the debt to a lot of European colonies, right? Which they couldn't pay back or something. So obviously, one of the European countries would be Britain, right? Britain was that powerful at the time. So I just thought that they just, slowly took over, like, how it happens today, basically. Like how China's doing to lots of Indian Ocean countries and African countries where they got in debt, right? And then they can't pay back the debt. And yeah, there you go. Apparently there are economical bases in those countries from China. So I thought it would be something like that, like they are economically in debt, so they just, basically take the resources from them or whatever, right, as payment. But no, they struck oil apparently.
By enforcing its economic hegemony there. The ruler of Persia at this point, Ahmad Shah, agreed to these terms because he didn't feel like dying, but they weren't implemented for very long. This was because the US, France and the newly formed USSR decried the treaty as amounting to essentially annexation, and it was soon afterwards abandoned. And after this, Britain
I don't know why I'm seeing South Park as soon as I see this image. Look at that, look at that. Look at all these three here, and he's like, this is like, Cartman saying, what? I'm not stealing, what?
amounting to essentially annexation, and it was soon afterwards abandoned. And after this, Britain subsequently withdrew, leaving a somewhat independent Persia. Thus, Iran did what many others failed to do: it survived the age of imperialism. And the reason why Iran was never conquered in its entirety was that it played both Britain and Russia off against each other. This meant that much of the country would be under the effective economic control of one of these two powers, but it did spare Iran the same fate as places like India or Syria, which was something. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to my Patreon supporters: James Bizanet, John Lucid, Danny Maloney, Gustav Mann, Maggie Paxkowski, Spencer.
Alright, so there we go. Why wasn't Iran colonized? Because they were somewhat smart, and I guess the situation was in that way. So when two global powers has same interests at one place, there is a slim chance that you might be, safe, apparently. Which should be opposite, right? If one global power is trying to attack you, you're fucked. If two global powers trying to attack you, there's a chance you'll be surprised, because you'll just pit them against each other. Yeah, obviously the oil helped. If there was no oil, I guess the things would have turned differently. But yeah. Right, people, that was Why Wasn't Iran Colonized by the channel History Matters. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment what next video you want me to react to from this channel or any other. And yeah, I'll see you next time.